moving on, I have to say, in terms of special effects, and when we get to Crosses to Bear, I think those effects are my favorite of all the effects you've done, and that's kind of really strange because if I think about it, Ties That Binds effects seem better, or at least maybe it's just a more of a dynamic kind of
I
effect.
think it's I think it's dramatics.
But I in terms of just special effects fitting the story, I think Crosses the Bear special effects are just so appropriate. They're just so perfect for the story, and it's just it's like effects that just fit so well for that story. They're not overindulgent. They just fit in perfectly. And one of the things that I think you like about them is that we didn't trim any of them really. I mean,
No,
we used mostly everything.
yeah,
The length you did, we used mostly all of it, except for the one shot where we show the bridge. That
yeah,
might have been cut by a few seconds, but overall, we used them exactly as you sent them.
yeah. I really like the way almost all of the effects in Crosses to Bear turned out because they didn't. Not to say there wasn't anything special about them, but what was special about them was extremely different. Um, Whereas most of the time with effects, and this goes for legacy and the ties that bind, you're trying to dazzle people a little bit, or at least you know you know make them say wow. You know, this the Crosses to Bear wasn't like that at all. The story isn't like that at all. So the effects couldn't be like that at all. They just had to be. They had to be organic. They
They
had to be
reminded me the most.
extremely organic.
They reminded me the most of the original series,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I don't know. It's just like they're so super appropriate. There's
yeah.
just something kind of poetic about them,
I just wanted them to fit the mood of whatever scene they were following or preceding. That was what was most important to
and
me. And
they're good.
yeah,
They're
thank
really
you,
good.
thank you.
And it's like every effect shot in that episode is really good. And
Everyone,
the effects are really consistent. I mean, they the ship looks like uh, the same ship in every shot. I mean,
yeah,
everything looks consistent.
yeah. Honestly, there's only one shot that to me does not work, and if I had it to do over again, I would do over. And it's not even the whole shot; it's only the end of the shot, the very last shot in the very last scene, where the camera pans up from the saucer of the Valiant and kind of swings around behind it before it goes into warp. That whole instance before it goes into warp is perfect. I love how that turned out because it is it's very somber, you know, but it still has this, because it's a Constitution class ship. There's still this kind of aura of optimism, even though everything that's happened in that episode has been pretty much a tragedy. You know, the Constitution class itself represents an optimism. So so that all works until I have the ship go into warp, and I had put this idea in my head that, hey, we've never followed a ship into warp speed before. They always go darting off into the distance. What would it look like if we actually followed a ship as it entered warp speed? And that's what I tried to do, and I think it just fell flat on its face. I really do. I
So
watched that scene and I'm like, that did not work at all.
so it's not so much the ship; it's just the effects of it going into warp.
Yes, yeah, the ship looks great. It's the shot of it, because the camera follows the ship as it enters warp, and it just did not turn out the way I wanted it to
Well,
turn out at all.
that shot when it ends, when you see it from the saucer section, that's a
Yeah,
pretty dynamic shot too.
I love it.
That shot is really kind of great, and
Yeah,
it's so reminiscent of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
yeah,
And I never really looked at that shot and thought it. Well, I mean, you're the author of it, so it's just
yeah,
like you might say, "Well, I really like animals," and I'm thinking, Oh, I don't think that worked, but
Yeah.
but how would you have done it differently? If I mean, let me ask you this: when you first put that scene together and watched it,
Mhm.
did you like it at the time?
At the time, yes, I did. I liked it. I liked it up until the point that I watched it incorporated into the episode for the first time on YouTube, and then I cringed
Wow.
because I realized it didn't work. I thought it worked beautifully until I saw it with the entire episode, and then I realized it did not work at all. The only part that doesn't work is the going to warp. The rest of it, the first part of it, with the camera, you know, looking down on the top of the saucer and then moving around, as the ship prepares to enter warp. All that works. It's just the warp speed part itself doesn't.
How would you do
And
it differently?
I'm not sure. It just, I think I need, the scene needs to be like maybe some star streaks or something, because the problem is that the Valiant doesn't seem to be in motion as it's as it's going to enter warp, and that's where I messed up.
Well, I'm trying to remember
You know,
now. When that episode opens, we see the ship at warp.
yeah.
Were the stars streaking in that scene?
I used the typical next generation um, type warp streak effect
So,
for
and you
that.
didn't do that at the end.
Yes, I did. Yeah, but it comes after this flash of light. It's like the Valiant is engulfed by this flash of light, which is supposed to represent it breaking the warp barrier
So,
and entering warp speed.
if you've got the streaks in there, why do you feel like it's not moving?
Because the ship doesn't look like it's moving. It's like when it's in normal space before it actually breaks the warp barrier, it doesn't look like it's accelerating at all. It's
You know,
just sitting there.
I
You
think
know?
when I wrote the script of that episode, and maybe it's in the notes of the special effects, but it seems like I remember I was trying to adhere to TOS guidelines and not have the ship
Yeah,
just freaking off. But I wanted it to be at warp, but not moving like really fast,
yeah.
just have the surroundings moving. So that maybe that had a little bit to do with it, but
I'm not sure.
I
Yeah.
never knew you were really unhappy with those effects. You
Well,
never,
it's just that one. I think every other effects shot that I did for Crosses to Bear worked very, very well.
I
And like I said, it's only the end part of that one.
I
It's like
sure wish
everything up to it.
we could have. I wish you'd have realized it, and then we could have added in a newer effect that you were happy with.
Well, by the time, let's see, that's just it. I didn't see it until it was uploaded to YouTube.
So was that like the first time you watched it and you saw that and you were like, ugh, the
Yeah.
very first time?
Well, I had watched it before, like after I rendered it,
Well, yeah,
and
you probably saw it too before it was released, right? I think
no,
I would have. Oh, I'm surprised I didn't send you an early copy.
no, well, see, by that time I didn't think there was anything that I could do about it. If you did send like a do not share link,
I probably
you
did in
know,
the group and put it
yeah,
there, but
I would have, I mean, I wouldn't have said anything anyway, because I'm like, okay, well, it's finished. I'm not going to say, I really don't like what I did with this, how this effect turned out. Can you wait 2 more weeks while I render a new one? I'm like, I wasn't going to do that. So, but when I rendered the scene, looking at it all by itself, I thought it worked perfectly. But then for some reason, when I watched the episode, its incorporation into the rest of the story, I saw it entirely differently, and I'm like, that did not work. I
that's
mean,
really
it did not
interesting
work at all.
because I have never received a comment to that effect of how you feel about that ending effect. So
Really?
no, nobody's ever
It,
said. And to me, from what I remember about that shot, when it goes to warp, the ship is slowly moving forward.
yeah, it is, but it's other thing. I think other things need to be those, like the ship can be moving slowly, but there has to be some impression of speed
Well, it seems
because
like
it
I
is
remember the stars
accelerating.
streaking, though, right?
uh, there's kind of a light that starts moving, that comes in close, that the ship passes through. That's kind of to represent the warp barrier, and there are kind of little sparks flying off of it. but it maybe it's just me. I don't get a sense of real acceleration from the scene, and you know, so to me, it's kind of a letdown since it's like literally the last shot in the episode. I'm like, oh, that could have gone a little bit better. Um, if I were to do it over today, I might put a kind of a streaking effect on the Valiant, even though we're following it, to try and give that impression that it's beginning to accelerate to faster than light. Just something to tip that scale in my own head.
You
Like
know,
I said, and maybe it is just me being too critical of myself.
you ever watch that episode on a big screen television?
No, not yet.
We watched it on the 60 inch when it was first released. When I had the actual high definition file
Yeah.
before YouTube kills the files, but and those special
YouTube.
effects were so beautiful. I had happened. My wife walked in on the scene where the ship's coming out of warp and it passes by and heads to the planet, and she looked at it and she goes, Is that in your film?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Wow, that looks like it's a movie." She really liked that shot, and
That's very sweet of her.
it looks come. I mean, the way it looks when it comes out, and then you see the impulse engines come on, and then you see the planet where it looks like night, and there's like buildings illuminated on the planet and
Yeah.
everything. Everything just looks great in that scene. But
I that's one of actually one of the another one of the favorite shots that I've done for Starship Valiant
so,
is that shot because it works so well between the scene that came before it and the one that comes after it.
and
It's a beautiful bridge.
one of the things, Craig, when that scene was made, um, and your effect is there. One of the arguments with a couple of people in the production was that we need to have the uh, the music that usually accompanies the Enterprise when they come to a planet that's orbiting a planet, where you had that dun
Hmm.
dun dun dun
Yeah,
dun dun, and I was like, no, we that had ruined the whole thing.
yeah,
I said we need silence,
yeah.
silence, and but everybody thought that it needed to have music there, it needed to have music there, but I said no, no music. We didn't put any
No,
music. And after that scene was done, your visual effects and the silence, everybody was like, "Yeah, you were right. It didn't need music."
yeah,
But I mean, that opening shot where the name of the episode's on there, and that shot of the ship from the profile, that's another excellent shot.
yeah,
That was a really nice shot, and it just it just looked so much like the original series. It was just like a straight reminder of the original series. It looked like a shot they would use in the original show.
yeah,
And there's, I guess there's not a whole lot of visual effects in Crosses, but the ones that are there are really good. And the shot of the ship from the top of the saucer, that's another really nice shot.
yeah. And that shot I really like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, everything up until the ship goes into warp, everything up until that point works really well for me. But and again, I was really informed by that script, and what that story is, and that story has really resonated with a lot of people. I've seen the
Yeah.
comments on that, and it really impacted a lot of people, and that
Sorry, sweetie.
I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to have been a part of that because you know um, when you can touch people that way with
Yeah. And
a story about spaceships, and I mean, come on, it's like this. It seems, if you think about it, it's like it seems kind of silly, but no, it's not. It really isn't. It's like it doesn't matter what medium you're using to reach people. If you've reached them and you've found a way to touch something inside of them enough for them to leave a comment, like some of the comments
yeah,
that
some
I've
of them are
seen,
really heartfelt. It's
they
just
really are.
there's a
Yeah.
bunch of them. A bunch of people were affected by that episode. I mean, I've seen them where they'll say, "I'm a grown man and I don't ever cry," but then they'll say that episode really
Yeah.
got me.
Yeah.
And even when I watch that episode now, I get a little bit misty eyed watching it, and I made it, and I still
Yeah.
get a little. It's pretty.
Well, it's very emotional, and it comes down to the actors.
All I
The
remember
actors just
is
all
David
of them.
David was really good in that episode. The
Yeah,
doctor, really good,
yeah,
and he pretty much carried the whole episode.
yeah, and he did it very, very well. He did it very, very well, and of course, the girls were
Yeah,
just spectacular, and the actor you got to play a young Dr. McCoy, that was actually scary.
yeah.
Okay,
I met him in Kansas at a sci-fi convention.
you sent me a photo of him so that I could put together the poster, because you had sent a bunch of cast pictures, and of course I knew that McCoy was in it, because I had read the script. But you sent a bunch of cast photos and stuff like that so that I could put together the poster for Crosses That Bear. And there's this picture of this guy, and I'm like, okay, so Michael found a way to go back in time, grab DeForest Kelly, bring him forward, do this role, and then send him back again. I'm like, wait a minute, yeah, because that guy, it was eerie how much he
You
looked
know,
like a younger
I,
DeForest
I've got
Kelly.
to give Scott Johnson credit for that because Scott's the one that suggested we met him at the same time, and Scott's like, man, this guy looks just like McCoy. You need to write him into something.
Yeah,
And that was really the inspiration behind putting McCoy in it. And I thought, well, what if we make McCoy younger and our doc was a more or less his teacher when he was.
yeah,
So I think it worked out, you know.
yeah. Oh no, I think it worked out spectacularly
And
well.
I
I
think
really
that
do.
might have been the first film that Frank was ever in. Now he's went on to be in several other fan films, but
Really?
yeah, he's been quite a few now.
Yeah.
But Crossing
And
the Bear, it's one that, well, you know, the episodes we've done, I'm proud of them all. I mean,
oh yes,
it's certainly a labor of love, and once again, I got to say that I can't impress upon you enough of how much I'm thankful that you accepted to do the effects work because I think you're just a beautiful person, and I appreciate so much what you've given Valiant and helped me to make this. Words can't say.
that means a great deal to me. It really does, and I feel exactly the same way. I really do. I'm glad that I did not listen to my initial instincts and think, oh, do you really want to do this? Because the people that I've gotten to know, even though I haven't met any of you in person, you know, you have become such a close friend.
I
I
appreciate
I
that.
know you. I feel I know you very, very well, and the respect that I have for you, as a person, as a Star Trek fan, as a director, as a writer, all of that stuff is just so huge. And and it's the same, with Brady, his talents, man, he's got an eye, and it works really well. I mean, he knows his stuff, and getting to know Vance and getting to know Scott and all of the other cast and crew, um, for all of the episodes. Even knowing now, being friends with some of the actors who've been on the episodes, has meant a lot to me. I'm like, these people are my friends. I've never met them yet. We have this really strong bond, that that just helps keep me going sometimes, honestly. Well, you saw some of the messages that I sent to you when I had that bad computer crash right before we were going to go into production on Animals, and
Mhm.
I couldn't do the effects for it because my computer was dead, and I
It's dead,
felt,
Jim.
yeah, and it was dead, and I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. I felt like I'd let all you guys down.
Yeah, and I remember telling you, don't feel like that. I mean,
I
it's not
know,
it's not a big deal. I mean,
you know, but I felt,
I knew you would have done them if you could. So
of
I mean,
yes, of course, but I felt that I was, that it was just placing such a burden on the entire production, and especially on you and Brady, who
oh
now
no,
not only had to do all the other post production stuff, now he had to do the CG effects as well. And I was like, I kicked myself for
he
months. I
enjoyed it.
really, really did. I'm glad he did. I'm glad, and like I said, they turned out
And then
spectacular.
like he said, it's a learning curve. So he was glad to do it because
Yeah,
of how it taught him how to do different things. So it all worked out.
yeah. I'm
Hey,
glad it did, but I'm looking forward to whatever the next adventure is. I've got a
I,
system up and running again. So
I have it in mind. I just really haven't felt like writing yet, but I'm really gonna. It's a short story. It'll be a vignette. Not too many visual effects, but I think it's right up your alley.
I'll I'll do whatever's needed.
I know I've had you on here for a long time, Craig, but I had written down a couple of quick questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Uh, where did I put it? First question, I don't know if you can answer this one quickly, but how hard is it for you to design a ship?
Um, it kind of depends on the day. If I get even like a vague description of a ship, I can usually put one together. Maybe if I work at it hard enough, like 2 weeks, at least
I,
have a basic design down.
I don't usually give you any vague descriptions. I just say an
No,
alien ship. So,
yeah. If I don't have any descriptions, it really depends. When I get an assignment like that, I'll work on it to the exclusion of all else. So I try to work as quickly as I can. So let's just say like 2 weeks to a month, to have a good design down.
and it
So,
seems like it was quicker.
you
But
know,
next one, how many other films have you worked on that actually were completed?
um, okay. Well, when it comes to like fan films, the only one I did some stuff for Melbourne, that
Yes.
was finished for Stormfront, that was finished as well. I have, and I also built a model for a web series called Malice, which I believe you can still
Oh,
find
wow.
on, yeah, which you can still find on YouTube, I think.
Sci-fi series?
Not really. There are some sci-fi elements to it. It's very hard to describe. It's kind of a neat twist on the haunted house.
I'm going to write that
Um,
down. Malice.
yes,
I'm going to look that up.
yeah, created by a friend of mine named Philip Cook, who is another inspiration of mine. Really, I've known him for a very long time, and he makes independent films, and now he does web series and independent films.
How
And
many episodes did you work on?
well, I didn't really work on any of the episodes. I built a model for him for one episode that was kind of like a dream sequence, where he asked me to build the space dock from Space 1999. And because he was putting together this episode that was Space 1999 based. It was based in that universe, and he was working on some other stuff, and he emailed me. He's like, do you think you could build this model? And I thought, okay, yeah, I think so. I couldn't even remember what it looked like, even though I watched the show when I was a kid. So I researched it, and I was like, yeah, I can build it. And I put it together for him. Yeah, and I sent it to him, and then he blew it up.
It's funny you mentioned Space 1999 because I just watched the first episode of that this past weekend. I watched it as a kid, but I didn't remember too much about it. But
Yeah,
I was really kind of impressed with it.
it that impressiveness won't last.
The first
I'm
episode
sorry.
was decent,
It is.
but I hadn't
It
seen any.
was. It started out so amazing, and again, it's another one of those things where the designs are so incredible, but then by the second season, the stories just collapse.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't work anymore. But so yeah, I built a model for as a model builder for that. I also worked on an independent film here in Pittsburgh that a friend of mine, who I've known since college, wrote, and she needed effects like computer screens, things along those lines. The film's called Always a Bridesmaid,
Is that on
and
YouTube?
you know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to ask
I
her to
want to write it
see.
down just in case.
Yeah. Now there are a number of films out there called Always a Bridesmaid, so
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
true.
make, yeah, you have to make sure you get the right one. Her name's her name is Wendy.
Indeed.
Wendy Grube Iben is her name, and
Okay.
It might be available on YouTube or maybe on Amazon, something like that. It's a short film. It's a short independent film. So I did basically anytime you see a computer screen or somebody's smartphone screen, they needed those kind of effects.
Cool.
So I created all of those. But that's right now, aside from Valiant and doing Stormfront, that's really all that I've worked on
You've
up to
also
this point.
done the effects for uh, I don't know if you remember the name, but it's Words Women,
That's right.
which is still in post production. The film's been I don't know if did they send you any updates on that?
No, no, they haven't.
It's been edited together. The problem that they're having is that the sound is really bad.
Really?
The guy that filmed it used the audio from the camera.
Oh, okay.
And I remember telling him when he was shooting that, hey man, don't you have mics or anything? And he said, no, the camera audio would be really good. So I didn't pay much attention. I thought, well, I guess he knows.
Yeah,
And now they're having trouble with the audio and
with the
people
sound.
hearing it. You
The word.
also did uh uh the what is it? Ship of the Line. You also did
You know
it
what? I'm
from
sorry.
that.
I don't know how I could have forgotten that because next year is the 10th anniversary of my cover. That's kind of what got. Yeah, exactly. But that wasn't a film project. I did the cover. I got the cover of the Star Trek Ships of the Line calendar for calendar year 2012, and that was an amazing process. I got to work very closely with Doug Drexler, who is the editor of that calendar line, and he was very, very patient with me through that process. And when he told me that I had landed the cover of the calendar, you could have knocked me over with a feather, to use a very old cliche.
Yeah, I know that picture. Were you actually the first author to actually show the ships that way?
No, that was the title of that is Reflections After Probert.
Because I remember it in maybe like an old Star Trek softcover book, a pretty big book, but
Yeah, it's actually a magazine way back
70s? No, 80s, I think.
early 1980, I think,
Yeah.
is the year it came out. It's called Enterprise Incidents. I even remember the number. It's Enterprise Incidents number 11, and he had painted the cover, and it was the TMP Enterprise over this crater with a reflective pond, and the reflection is the original series Enterprise. And I have loved that. That image to me was always so evocative
Well,
of one to the other.
I saw it years ago and I've never forgot it.
Yeah, see, neither did I. I still have the magazine. It's upstairs somewhere.
So,
But I mean, I snatched it off the shelf the instant I saw it, and I've had it ever since.
how long did it take you to do that?
Um, the original that I did, because the one that's on the cover is actually, I think, like the fifth draft that we ended up. But the original that I did, I posted online in a CG artists forum, and it went over pretty well. People really seemed to like it a lot. And then when I heard that Doug Drexler was looking for submissions for the Ships of the Line calendar, I thought, okay, well, I've been playing around with these Star Trek models for long enough. Maybe I can do something that he'll like. So I sent him a bunch of stuff. And he landed on that image and said, I'd really like to do this. He says, I was thinking about doing this myself, but you've done an incredible job. He said, but we'll need to make some changes to it. And I was like, okay, sure, that's not a problem.
Is that due to rights or something? The changes you'd have to make?
No, I don't think so. At least that's not what he intimated to me at all. He wanted to make some changes. I think just to separate it from its original, to make it a progression from its original source material. And since it was supposed to be a realistic depiction, he wanted to add certain things to that, to make it a little bit more realistic. Like, in Andrew Probert's painting, you can't see what's making the reflection. It's it's perfect glass. It's like a perfect mirror.
Hmm.
Where Doug Drexler, he wanted to have some kind of form there. Like he wanted to have ice. He wanted to have that surface made of ice, and then the reflection is kind of within the ice. So I had to try and figure out how to do that. And that's Photoshop came into play for a lot of that stuff as well. But so he just wanted to have it a little more substantive, I think. But I don't think it had anything to do with any kind of legal rights, especially since we had named it Reflections After Probert. And at the time, I was speaking with Andrew Probert. He knew about it. I had emailed him as soon as I was given the go ahead, and I was like, "This is this basically?" I was asking if it was okay with him, and he thought it was fine. And again, I was using Dennis Russell Bailey's model of the TMP Enterprise, and so I contacted him and I said, "Your model's going to be on the cover of the Ships of the Line calendar." And he was very happy to hear that. Yeah,
He seems like a really nice guy.
he is a really nice guy. I like him a lot. We've had some fairly heavy discussions about some things, but I really like him a lot. He's got a great wit, and I think he's got a really good outlook on life. And the episodes of the Next Generation that he wrote are favorites. I really like, especially Tin Man. I really like Tin Man a lot. There's a lot of messaging in there that that just resonates in my head very well. Um, and who knew he builds great 3D CG models as well. He's really good at that. So
Has your work been put into any of the other Ships of the Line calendars?
no, I have some starting when I got the cover for 2012. Of course, I would submit every year, um, and I never made it in again. Um, and it got to be really just a bit disappointing because I ended up being a one hit wonder. Where other friends of mine, like again, um, uh, Doug Graves and Tobias Richter, and these really spectacular CG artists were getting in, over and over and over again, and of course they deserve it. And I'm like, I was desperate to join that club, but they just didn't. None of my choices, none of the other compositions that I came up with were chosen.
I
Yeah,
wish they would print a really big book of all the artwork that they've used in those, because for the most part, the Ship of the Line calendars have. I mean, I love the pictures.
yeah. They printed coffee table. They printed a half copy coffee table book
Didn't you
of.
give me a book of Ship of the
I
Lines?
I think I might have sent one to you. Yes, yeah, and of course, the cover that I did is in that as well. But I believe if I didn't check around. It's like a coffee table book but sliced in half.
Mine, the
you
one
know,
you sent me was a little bit longer, I think.
yeah, okay, so yeah, but it's not as big as a coffee table book. It's not
Uh,
as tall. It's about half that size. So then I did send one to you. I'm glad I
so
did.
I had two more questions, but you've kind of answered one already, which would have been your most frustrating effect, unless it's not the one that you spoke about in Crosses to Bear.
No, it's the one in Crosses to Bear.
Okay, and then your proudest visual effect,
Oh,
and it doesn't
that
have to be
is
Valiant, but
well, yeah, but Valiant's the one that I've done the most work on, and that I've done, that I've put the most work into. So, trying to look back over the whole thing, trying to find one to nail down. Um, Again, the room that the Admiral is in from Legacy, I just love that. That effect came together so perfectly, and I didn't know
Admiral,
that
with all due respect, I don't
home
think.
green screen could be done that well. That was another worry that I had, was like, because you guys said, well, we're going to be filming her against a green screen, and I'm like, oh, is she going to have this big green fuzzy, outline around her? And it is so perfect. I mean, it's amazing. You'd swear she was in that room.
Well, I have to
It's
give Brady all the credit other than your
yeah.
visual effects on that.
So I love that, and I guess I'd have to, again. We keep coming back from Crosses to Bear. That shot of the Valiant coming out of warp, and entering the planet's orbit is just, that one just, I just felt, I felt inspired when I did that shot, and it works so well. Like I said, in between what came before it and what comes after it, it just transitions everything so well. That's something that I can actually lift my head up and say I'm really, really proud of how that shot turned out. So,
Well,
yeah.
I know we've been on for a while. These things always turn into more time than I
Oh
anticipate.
yeah, I can't,
But
I can't. You're gonna be knocking your head against the wall trying to edit this. I know you are.
it'll take a little bit, but
Yeah,
I'll probably split it up into 3 videos like I did
yeah,
before. Well,
that'll be
actually,
yeah.
it
I
turned
think
into 4 before, but
yeah.
I
Oh,
start.
one other effect that I'm very proud of is the one that we're surrounded by right now. The view screen.
Oh,
The view screen that you're placing this on.
oh, okay, yeah, we can't see it now. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to using that
I'm looking
because
forward to seeing how that looks.
another problem that I had with the first podcast were that since I didn't have it all over the screen and I use that star fill in the background, my computer, and I use Power Director 15 to edit
Yeah,
those. It, Having the star fill, then Brady's footage, and then the B-roll as they call it, it really slowed down the editing process on
yeah,
that. I mean,
I bet.
I'd place a scene there, and it would take it a minute before it would. And saving it really, like, I save so much because I'm afraid something's going to crash.
Yeah,
But I one thing that'll help out with what you did is that I only have that one file, so
yeah,
that's really going to help in speeding up the editing process. I really appreciate that because the screen is beautiful.
yeah. I was really happy with how it turned out, and I hope you and I look good on the
Well, we look
screen.
good on this.
Yeah, and I hope people aren't. I hope people aren't going crazy trying to follow the lights that are on either side of us. Yeah, like because
Another great thing, Craig, that you're really really great at doing is all the wallpapers that you sent me. Great.
I
Those
have fun with those too.
wallpapers are
I
excellent.
do.
The
I
posters are excellent. Everything the poster for Legacy, I got that on the wall. It's just beautiful.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
I'm thrilled to hear that.
yeah,
I
it's on
am
the
so
wall.
thrilled to hear that. I have enjoyed all of it, because I enjoy doing all of that stuff, and everything helps me improve. Everything you've ever asked me to do has helped me improve on things that I've already enjoyed doing. So, how can I not be grateful to you for
Shoot,
for helping to make me better at
and I
what
feel
I
the
love to
same
do?
way about you.
You know, um, you
I,
know,
I've kept you long enough from Julie. She's probably like, oh my god,
no, I think she's actually probably enjoyed the fact that I haven't been speaking to her for 3 hours straight.
is she still awake?
Oh yeah, yeah. She just went into the kitchen.
So she's a night owl too.
Yes, but yeah, she's laughed at some of the stuff that I've said and made funny faces at me to try and to get me to crack up, but I managed to block all of that. So,
Yeah.
and I think I keep looking behind me. I think my cat is behind the louvers on the window here, and I'm waiting for her to peek her head out.
Oh, is that why they keep moving?
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She
I
keeps
thought it
moving
was the
around
wind.
back there. Oh, I have a fan here too, but yeah, she likes to walk across that windowsill,
Well,
and I was kind of expecting her to poke her head out, but I guess
it's been
she's
so
not gonna.
long since we've actually chatted. Last time your hair was really long.
It was really long. I got it cut, and now it's gone really gray. Yeah.
Looks
So,
good though. Looks
thank
good.
you.
It
I
doesn't look
appreciate
gray.
it. That's a good thing because it is. Let me tell you. In fact, I don't. Like over here, if
Well,
you look,
if it
if you
is
look
gray,
on
that's
this,
just a sign of wisdom.
yeah, I wish.
Well,
Maybe in most people's cases, but not mine. So
nah. Well, thank you so
uh,
much for taking the time to sit down and talk to me tonight. I
I have
appreciate it so
enjoyed
much.
this.
Yeah, as Kirk said at the when they beamed right before they beamed the Klingons off the ship, we must do this again sometime.
We must do this again sometime. Definitely. I know this was fun, and I enjoyed watching the ones that you did with Brady as well. You know, it is so obvious that you guys are very close friends and share a great deal of of vision about about Star Trek and about Starship Valiant and what you want it to be. And I'm so happy to be a part of that.
Well,
So
I wanted to
yeah,
make an official record of all this because one day I'll be too old to mess with this stuff, and I want to just click a thing and remember everything.
yeah,
So it's for posterity, as they
that's
say.
good for that works for me too. Because I don't
Well,
remember what I did yesterday. So
well, be
yeah,
sure and tell Julie that I appreciate her giving you up for the time we have to record this, and I appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell her right now. Julie, he appreciates you giving me up for the time it took to record this.
It's been a pleasure.
There she is. I don't know if you heard her or
Yeah,
not.
I heard her. Tell her she's very, very sweet.
You are very, very sweet.
Aw,
Yeah.
thank you.
See, she's a Star Trek fan too, so she understands.
Well, I
And she
appreciate it.
knows, yes, and she knows that that doing these effects keeps me from getting in trouble. So,
Good.
so yeah,
Well,
because if
we'll
I'm
have some more for you as soon as possible.
okay, that works for me.
Well, thank you so much, Craig.
It was good to talk to you, my friend.
No
It
problem. Take
really
care of
was.
yourself, and I'm sure we'll be in touch probably
Yes.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Well,
That
take
sounds
care.
fun. All right. Take it easy.
You too.
And goodbye to everybody else out there,
I'll
too.
give you the Vulcan salute.
Yes. Do we wait?
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah.
I keep forgetting where the camera is. I want to look
I
there.
know. I did it here, so I'm off the camera, but I had to
Yeah.
move it over.
Yes.
Well, take care.
So thank you. You too, sir.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.